Hi, and welcome back to Birth and Baby Talk. I'm Leanne Palmerston from Hamilton Family Doulas, and I'm one of your regular hosts. And today we're talking about readiness for solids, how to know if your baby is ready for solids. We're going to go through each of the signs, what you're looking for, so that you can be confident that it's a good time to start solids with your baby. And we're going to debunk a few myths. Okay, so welcome. We have Bob here with us. Baby Bob, say hello to everyone. Baby Bob is going to help us demonstrate some stuff as always. So one of the first things to know about starting solids is that it's different for every single baby. And that's why it's really important to understand what the developmental signs of readiness are, because everyone is presently given a go-ahead when their baby turns about 6 months, right? Everybody's doctor says, when your baby is 6 months, you can start solids. And often those same doctors recommend starting things like purees and cereals to test out whether baby is ready for solids or not. And I don't think that's a super great idea, actually. And I'll explain why as we go through the readiness signs. So 6 months is the average age at which babies, human babies, are developmentally ready to eat table food. So up until this point, they've been eating an entirely liquid diet. And sometime in this zone of around 6 months, a number of things start to change. Just as babies' eyesight develops over the first couple of weeks of their life to be mostly high contrast images, to increased depth of field and increased ability to perceive a wider range of colors, wider peripheral vision. Just like that's happening with their vision, the same kinds of things are going on in the baby's entire body as they approach 6 months, to get them ready to be able to take in, chew, swallow, and digest solid food. Up until this point, up until the point that your baby is fully ready for solids, they have a number of things that make eating solids challenging. Not least of which is an immature gut system that is unable to fully process solid foods. That is one of those things. Another thing is they have a number of protective reflexes, or a number of protective reflexes. One of the big ones is it's called the tongue thrust reflex. So if you take, say, a 2-month-old baby and you try to put a spoon of applesauce into their mouth, let's imagine. Now, I want you to know, if you go and put a tablespoon or a teaspoon of applesauce into a baby's mouth who is not developmentally ready for food, you're not going to poison them. Okay, so that's the one myth, is that if you start solids before their 6th birthday, that you can potentially harm the baby. Now, generally, I'm not going to get into the real deep weeds about whether starting solids early can lead to things like obesity and diabetes, or changes to their gut health, but we can see that could be a possibility, right? And I would encourage you, if you're very worried about those things, to look deeper into those issues. I'm really just going to stick to the developmental stuff today, okay? So if you were to try, if maybe Bob was 2 or 3 months old and I gave him a spoonful of applesauce because I was so excited, I wanted to see if he was ready to eat, What he would probably do is he'd go like this, and he'd push the food and the spoon out of his mouth. He would probably also do this. He'd clamp his lips and his dental plates down so tight, I'd never be able to get the spoon in. Now, you may have seen that with a baby who you wanted to offer a bottle to, and they did not want to take the bottle, or you wanted to give them pacifier because they were upset and they did not want to have the pacifier. And they clamped their little lips tight and they pushed it out of their mouth and prevented it from going in. That is the tongue thrust reflex, and it is there to help prevent the baby from choking. So babies' bodies are designed to reject anything except liquids, except something nipple-shaped, until they get to a point where they're developmentally ready. And when they're developmentally ready, they'll drop that. Now, and in combination with that, again, is their gut, which is ready to digest solids. And, like some adults, if you don't drink a lot of milk, generally, you start to lose the ability to process a lactose. I was going to call it lactate for a minute, and it's lactose. So some people don't have the ability to process lactose. And what happens when you ingest some lactose? Just turning the sound off on my phone. What happens? I'm sure you have to run to the bathroom because that stuff's coming straight back out of you because your body rejects it. And you may also get insanely horrible gut pains as well. Babies go through the same kind of thing when they're not developmentally ready. They will often get upset tummies, they will get pain in their guts, and they'll have diarrhea, which is not good for a baby. So we want to avoid that. Now, what an industry that is desperate to find ways of creating income streams for itself has done in the past is to take table food, grind it down into a paste or a puree, add more liquids to it so it's thinned out into a kind of runny gruel, and then offer that to babies as a way to bypass the tongue thrust reflex. So if you can take infant cereal, which I don't know, it looks like instant mashed potatoes to me, like basically, or it looks like sort of grainy formula. You put a bit of it into a bowl, you add some warm breast milk or water to it and thin it out, and then you feed that to the baby. Well, that's not really food. That's like a thing that you can ingest. That's a thing that they could put some chemical iron and vitamins into, but it's not actually food, and it is processed in such a way as to, like get around the baby's natural safety mechanisms. So I don't know about you, but getting around baby's natural safety mechanisms sounds like a potentially not safe thing to do to me as a parent. And as a doula, I recommend maybe that we listen to baby and we look to baby to guide us on what's right for them and their particular bodies. So we're looking for that tongue thrust reflex to be gone. And then the next thing, the thing that really alerts, like that's the big deal, right? When that is gone, babies are generally ready to start ingesting food. But there's a number of other things we want to start to look for as well. We want to make sure that the baby can hold their own head up, okay? So this is not a little tiny baby who's flopping from side to side. If your baby is sitting in a high chair, but they're all like flopped over to the side and you have to prop them up, they're not ready. And the baby needs to be able to sit up straight on their own with minimal or no propping. So I don't necessarily mean that they need to be able to sit in the middle of the living room floor and hang out for 20 minutes straight. But if you've got your baby sitting on your lap, let's say, they should be able, let's imagine my arm here is my lap. They should be able to kind of hold themselves up without constantly flopping over, right? That's a really big deal. Because that, it takes a lot of core strength to do that. And babies require all of those muscles in their core and in their pelvis here to be strong enough to do the jobs that they need to do, right? They need to be able to hold their own heads up because there's food going in their mouth and then down their throat. And we can't have a baby suddenly get stuff in their mouth and then have their head flop over or tip onto their chest. And then have that food sort of lodged in their throat, not completely swallowed down. So we need babies to be able to sit up on their own and hold their own heads up. I'm not talking about sitting up in a bumbo or something else either that kind of props the baby unnaturally into a sitting position. Because if you took a baby, most babies out of a bumbo, they would flop right over if you sat them straight on the floor or, on a flat surface. So you're looking for the lack of the tongue thrust reflex, the loss of the tongue thrust reflex. You're looking for the baby to be able to hold their own head up reliably and be able to sit up reliably with little to no propping in any way. I mean, obviously, if we're going to have babies sitting in a high chair, there's going to be a little bit of propping there, but you'll be able to know if your baby can reliably sort of hold their bodies up most of the time on their own. And then this is the one you will probably start to really notice and will get you fired up to get started with solids, is your baby will start to show signs that they're interested in food. So they'll often watch you intensely whenever you eat. In fact, they'll often watch from the food to your mouth. And you can watch their eyes follow it because they're intensely interested in it. And they might start to get a little jealous and wonder what all that fuss is about you putting food in your mouth. And they'll start to want to do that too. They'll start to get vocal around food time. And if they are sitting close to you, they may try to grab food off of your plate or out of your hand. I can remember when my oldest son finally showed signs of readiness. I didn't realize it was coming, and we were sitting in a mall, and he was just, sitting on my lap, and we were just taking a break and having some French fries. I was sitting in a mall seat, and remember those days when you used to go out to malls and just hang out for no reason? I'm sure we had a reason. And I was sitting talking to my husband. So my son was on one knee. I was talking the opposite direction from him to my husband. And as I was talking, I was holding a French fry in my hand in front of me, but not paying attention to it. And I looked back at my son, and he had actually grabbed the French fry without my even really realizing it and was trying to get it near his face. As you know, little babies don't have great aim at first. So he was doing a valiant effort to try to eat a French fry, doing the thing that he was watching us do as we were grabbing French fries and putting them in our mouth. So he was showing a lot of intense signs of readiness. We gave him a couple of more weeks because he was what felt on the young side. He was only about 5 months at that time. And the party line is that you wait until a baby is 6 months old to start solids. About 2 weeks after this, we thought, well, why don't we just take a little bit of banana, just like fresh banana. a banana is such a great thing to start with because if he didn't want it, I could just finish it myself. And then we just took a little bit of it, and I used a fork. I wanted to sort of make it a little bit easier for him, as I didn't know a lot about starting solids with babies at that time. And I just sort of mashed it a little roughly and scooped some on my finger and offered it to my son. And didn't he gobble that down as fast as he could and started getting really excited to have more. And he finished up all of that banana. And from that day on, for every meal that we sat down for, that baby got offered a little bit of food. And so I'm not going to necessarily talk about, starting foods, like what you should start, how you should go about it. In this show, we are going to address that next month when we talk about in an introduction to baby-led weaning, which is all about, it sounds like weaning. We associate that with breastfeeding. It's not necessarily about finishing breastfeeding. It's about starting solid foods. And so we're going to give you lots of exciting information about that next month. But for now, we're just going to review how to know your baby is ready. And so some babies are going to be able to sit up and hold their own heads up and be able to ingest foods and things a little bit sooner than other babies, and that you might see that around 5 months or so. And some are going to be later. So my second child was almost 8 months old before he was at all willing to eat any solid foods. And that was fine. After he started, he was great. He ate lots of food. So if your baby is a little late getting started, don't worry about it. Just because they're 6 months old doesn't mean they have to eat solids. If they're unwilling to eat solids, that is a sign that they're not ready yet. So as a parent, you want to go, okay, I recognize you're not ready for this. We're going to take a break. Maybe in a couple of days or maybe next week, we'll try again. And then again, keep an eye out for, are they sitting up? Are they holding their heads? Have they gotten rid of their tongue thrust reflex? And are they interested in solids? If they're not at all interested in solids, if they're having trouble holding their own heads up, then decide to delay. So it's pretty simple, but it's an area of early parenting that has a lot of misinformation, a lot of just half understood information, and the recommendations have changed over time. So back in the late 1800s, babies weren't recommended to start solids until almost their first birthday. So somewhere around 11 months, babies would start solids before the beginning of the 1900s. And then by the 60s, the 50s and 60s, babies as young as 3 and 4 months old were being started with solids. And in fact, if I'm correct, my husband's mom was really fantastic about keeping a diary of baby stuff. And for him, in his diary, I believe at 6 weeks, it was recommended that my mother-in-law start some solids with him in the form of rice cereal. Again, we want to think about white rice. Let's take white rice, grind that down, add a little liquid to it, plop some liquid vitamins into it from the factory, and then feed that to a baby. It's not really food in the way that we think of food. And when babies are developmentally ready for food, they're ready for food. So that's what we're looking for. We're not looking for ways to shortcut the system because there are potential problems with that. Just like with any shortcut, if you don't follow these sort of biological rules that the baby has already established for itself, then we're not really doing the right thing by the baby and your particular baby's body. And again, just like my examples from my own family, you may find that from child to child, those signs of readiness happen at different times. So you may have had a child who very happily started foods right at about 6 months, but your second child is very, very ready just after 5 months, or your third child might be very, very ready just after 7 months. So it really varies. And I think that's kind of really interesting because every baby has their own needs and their own capabilities. And the more we honor that, the more we can allow our babies to really thrive in the exact way that they're supposed to, which I think is pretty cool. So I want to thank you for joining us. If anyone has questions about recognizing those signs of readiness, then please leave them in the comments and we will definitely answer them. If you want to talk to us right away, you can DM us through Facebook, or we have an Instagram account, Birth and Baby Talk. I think it's birth_and_baby_talk. So get in touch with us those ways. And we have a very special episode coming up on Friday. We're having an extra show because our agencies are in need of doulas. And we're going to talk about becoming a doula. So if you've ever been curious about it, come on back on Friday. We're going to have Megan Grant from Toronto Family Doulas, Megan Bowser-Taylor from Ottawa Family Doulas, and myself are going to be hanging out and talking about, what it's like to become a doula. So that should be a lot of fun. And yeah, if you're interested in becoming a doula, DM us, get in touch. If you have an idea for a future show, something you'd like more information on, please let us know, and we will add that into our rotation. We love hearing from our viewers and hearing exactly what's important to you so that we can give you exactly what you're looking for. We hope you found this valuable. And sign up for the newsletter because I'll be dropping a handout this week with our readiness signs in there, so you can have an easy reference for when the time comes. Have a great week, folks.